Hi everyone, probably the last Chops Garage video before Christmas. So just popped in, finished off a bit of paperwork, but first thing this morning I went and grabbed this Hyundai i10. Now anybody who knows anything about this channel knows I love a Hyundai i10. They are just fantastic little cars. They are so bulletproof, they're so cheap to run. You know, £30 road tax, you get 50 miles to the gallon. That chain driven engine with a good chain that tends to last really well, super cheap and easy to service, and just bulletproof, reliable. Cable clutch, cable throttle, there's just not a lot to go wrong with them. Drove this 2 hours back, drove like a dream. It has only done 32,000 miles with a pre-registration by the main dealer, but then owned by one owner. It's had a new clutch. It's just a cracking little car. Bit bumped around the corners. It's got a nasty panel gap there for the bumper. It's got a scrape down there. The lady has done her best to touch it in as well with colour-coded paint, but I think she would have been better off leaving well enough alone, I think, in a number of places. We'll have to get the thinners on there. Often you'll find when you get the thinners on there and get that paint off, they've tried to cover up a small mark with a great clump of paint. I guess the most important thing is it drove really well. Yeah, cracking little car. Always like to have a Hyundai i10 in stock. The other reason I like them is they do sell really fast. I don't see them with warranty claims, and they sell really fast. To the extent that when I drove this back today, it was sold within an hour. Now that wasn't because I had somebody already waiting. Somebody turned up, really nice lady. I sold her family already 2 cars. Both their kids had cars on me. One had a Nissan Note and the other one had a Suzuki Swift. And both of them were so happy. They said to Mum when she was looking at a car, you need to go back and see James. So she just happened to swing by and see if I was about today. I was. She said, what have you got around sort of under the 4K mark that would be a good little run around for me? And I said, well, I've got a few things, but I've literally just driven back in this now and it is great. And the best thing about this lady is, I remember her son being the same now. He'd rather buy the car with a few marks on it cheaper than than have them all done. And this lady said the same thing. Her Polo, bless her, her Polo is battered, absolutely battered. Her Polo, it's got a power steering fault on it. It's absolutely battered. So she said, how about if I do the same thing? I take it as it is, because obviously I planned on doing all the paint on that. I said, well, if you want me just to valet it, go around with the thinners, tidy up some of those marks and take it as it is, I can do the car for you for 3.2. Auto Trader recommended is 3.6. In hindsight, it's probably a bit of a big discount, but she's also going to take it with the MOT that's on it after we've had a look over it, because that runs through till September. It's only got 2 advisories for some rear brake pipes, which we'll check out. You know, because it's got that standard, could be grease, mud or rust, whatever. We'll have a check out of them. But yeah, so she's going to pick that up. I wasn't planning on coming in between now and Christmas, but she's going to pick up on Thursday, so I'm going to nip back in and do some work on that for a day. I'll take a day out in between Christmas and New Year's and go through everything on that. I've got everything I need here to fix anything anyway. So yeah, we'll check that over. Hopefully that'll go all smoothly. But that's how quick it took to sell. Yeah, it took an hour to sell the car. And again, it's just one of those ones where, you know, when they go out the door, it's very unlikely you're going to see them again. And everybody that's bought one has absolutely loved it. And if I could fill the place full of them, I absolutely would, because they are, like I say, they're brilliant little motors. Anything else happens stock wise? I don't think so. Nothing I need to keep you informed of. Oh, we did a little test drive on the Captiva yesterday, but they had a Mini Clubman that they'd put a lot of money into, but it had like modified wheels and everything else on it, but the miles were up there with 130. Trade price was coming back on it about, I think, £400, something like that, £400 or £500. I did offer them quite a bit more than that. I did offer them what did I offer them, £700 or £800, but I don't think it was quite enough to push it over the edge. So the Captiva's had a couple of test drives now, but no one's pulled the trigger on it, but I'm pretty sure that will go. Well, I say that won't happen now because I'm about to shut up shop. And to be honest, I'm quite happy with the idea that pretty much all this stock now is MOT'd, ready to go. So when I come in January, all my stock is good to go. And I've had a pretty decent December. I've sold quite a bit in December. People say it's normally dead, but I think a lot of people have had a busy December from chatting around. Anyway, so I thought what I'd leave you with is A little bit of story time, because I know you love your stories. I do know you love your stories. And a subscriber's been kind enough to send me in a story of when he attempted to sell his car privately and it made absolutely classic reading. I said, are you prepared for me to share it with everybody else? And he said, yes. So we'll get comfy and I'll share that with you. I'll get a coffee because it's blooming freezing as always. Oh, as I pass the MR2 coming back in, don't forget, by the time this video goes out, you're going to literally have a couple more days to be able to enter the raffle where you can win the Toyota MR2, or you can have the Toyota MR2 with what, 50,000 miles, or the Fiat Barchetta, which is left-hand drive, just a reminder, left-hand drive because they only made them left-hand drive. Fiat Barchetta with 11,000 miles on it, or you can have £5,000 cash. I'll put a link in the video description down below, but it's probably about your last chance to get tickets for that before it is drawn, and it's got a load of top-on gear as well. Right, let's get that coffee and tell you the story because it did make me laugh. Oh, just one other thing quickly. The lady that came and bought the i10 had a gentleman with him who's absolutely fallen in love with the Acadian van and wants to buy it from me, and said if I can get it MOT'd for him and just finish off lacquering the whole thing, he'd like to buy that in the new year in January. And we spoke about a price. I said it would probably be around the £4,000 mark, something around that, like that. I said because you can buy it now as a project, or we can get it all MOT'd and finish it off. So we'll see if that comes off or not. But he seems pretty darn serious about it, to be fair. He was pretty darn serious. He's had 2 CVs before and he fell in love with it. So we'll see what happens there. So you can see the Father Christmas beard is still in full growth, and you've got a nicely lit forehead from the side. So yeah, beautiful. But yeah, story time. So this came in from a subscriber, as I said, who had offered me his car. We'll call him Bill. I said he wouldn't use his real name. So Bill offered me his car, and it was a Hyundai i30. You might say, Jones, you'd be all over that. The only trouble with it was it had 135,000 miles on it, so the mileage was really too high for retail. Its retail value was only £5,000, but you can tell with it wouldn't take a lot to get, to get in a lot of trouble with a car. You're only selling at £5,000 with 137,000 miles on. So the price I could offer wasn't that great. Need a little bit of bodywork as well. So Bill decided to take it on himself and to sell the car privately. Which of course makes perfect sense if you want to make the most amount of money from selling your car, because selling to a dealer is really sort of your last option, isn't it? You really just don't want the hassle. So what Bill did is he got a little bit of paintwork that was needed done on the car, and he listed it for £3,850 on Facebook Marketplace. I said the retail on it was £5,000. Got lots of messages you do on Facebook Marketplace, lots of silly offers. He got a lady messaging to say that she wanted it and she'd come down the following day after work, but she said the mileage was a bit high and she didn't like the colour. So he didn't quite understand why she wanted to come and see the car again. We've seen that on my channel as well, isn't it? There's an amazing amount of people that don't like the colour of a car, aren't happy with the mileage and so forth, or the spec, and still want to come and see it. Weird. Anyway, so he had after a little while, he had a guy message him from the Hull area, and it's about 2 hours away from where Bill is, who said he wanted the car. He'd come down on the train if he would pick him up. But he was hitting him over and over again, wanting the car for 3.5. So Bill had it for 3,850, wasn't it? He wanted it for 3.5. They went back and forth, and he agreed 3,500, and that he would come down at the weekend to pick the car up. But then a couple of days later, he messaged Bill and said that actually he hadn't taken into some account some stuff about his insurance and his tax, so he could only actually pay £3,200 for the car. So Bill, good man, said don't bother coming because we agreed 3,500 and now you're trying to bail on that, so do not bother coming down. Well, then the guy started still messaging back and forth, and eventually did agree to actually go back up to the price he agreed on the basis that our subscriber Bill would go and pick him up and take him to his house and show him the car. So he hopped in his car, went to go and pick the guy up, and on the way back the car did what a stop-start car did, which is do its stop-start during traffic. Well, the buyer decided that wasn't right. The car shouldn't do that. It shouldn't be stopping and starting and switching itself off. So whilst they were travelling along, he was trying to Google it to find out whether he was being scammed on it or not, whether the car should be doing that. Then when they arrived at his house, he took about an hour looking over the car and then started to try and hit Bill back down again to 3,200 from the 3,500 agreed. So trying to get back to the price point he tried a few days ago when he said that he hadn't factored in road tax and his insurance. He tried all sorts of things with Bill, telling him that if he didn't give him the lower price point, he wasn't even going to have enough money to get the fuel to get home. If he didn't give him the price point agreed, he wasn't going to be able to have food for the month, so he threw absolutely everything at getting his price down. So understandably, Bill gets to the point where he's so frustrated with the chap, he says, look, at the end of the day, clearly I can't afford the car, there's no deal to be done, and walked back into his house. Well, the chap didn't leave, he hung around and ended up knocking on the door and saying, 3,400 final offer. Bill said, no, I'm not even going to give you £1 off. You've totally wasted my time. We'd agreed this price before you came down. I already told you I wasn't going to discount any further. And now you're trying to chip me again. He said, so I'm not going to do it. At this point, the guy admitted that he only ever came down with 3,400 in the first place. He didn't actually have the extra £100 in order to be able to pay Bill's 3,500. But again, quite rightly, Bill said, no, sorry, your problem, not mine. We agreed a price, and let the guy trudge off back to the train station. He had to walk his way back to the train station. Obviously, a bit like me, he felt bad afterwards, because even though you're not in the wrong, if you're a nice person, you end up feeling a little bit guilty. Felt a bit guilty for letting him walk back, but this is this guy's own fault. It's only a problem caused by himself. The guy did actually even ask for Bill to take him back to the train station, even though he knew he'd mucked him around. But yeah, I'm glad again that he did stick to his guns on it. So at this point, Bill's like, do you know what? I've had enough of trying to sell a car. I'm just going to take it down to We Buy Any Car and just get rid of it that way, which I would have thought would probably be quite a brutal price, to be honest. But the good news is that he did actually end up getting a message from, he didn't actually go down to We Buy Any Car, he got round to it. He got a message from an old boy that sent him a message via the marketplace. And he'd had his car just written off, and he really needed a car, and he liked Bill's. And he wasn't really bothered about the higher mileage. And if he didn't mind bringing the car to him 5 miles away because his car was written off, he would do a deal with him, and he ended up agreeing at £3,650, so just a couple £100 off what Bill wanted for the car. And more than he would have got it for trade, so all good in the end. But it was enough for Bill to end his email saying, the moral of the story is to leave the selling to the experts. And he took his hat off to me, because he realises what it is like now trying to sell a used car. So yeah, massive thanks to him for sending that story in. It was slightly comforting to hear that someone has the same challenge as I do when selling a car. You do sometimes have to kiss a few frogs before a deal can be done. But I'll never understand these people that agree a deal with somebody and then without any good reason try and chip them down. Now, at the end of the day, if you agree a deal with somebody on a car and you turn up and it's not as described, there's faults with it, there's issues with it that weren't highlighted at point of sale, or maybe they just genuinely missed them, then there's a genuine need to negotiate. But if the car is as described, and from this story, there was nothing particularly that the guy was saying was wrong with the car. He just came down knowing he intended on not paying the price he agreed with somebody, which is just utterly unacceptable, isn't it? Really glad that our subscriber stuck to his guns on this one as well, because I think the only reason that people like that are around doing that is because a lot of people will fold. They'll just decide at the end of the day they can't be dealing with it. They'll just fold and give the lower price point just to get the car out of the hair and get the person out of the hair. But we need more people out there sticking to their guns on it, and then perhaps we'll put a stop to this. Don't forget, if you've got a story you want to share, by all means, hit me up on Instagram. You can get me on the website www.cgcarsales.co.uk, or you can email me at cgcars@jnbhltd.com, whichever way is easier for you. And yeah, hopefully we can share that with them, because I know they enjoy the stories. So at this point, obviously, have a fantastic Christmas. I hope to get some more videos out between Christmas and New Year for you. If I don't for any reason, I'll say Happy New Year now. But as always, massive thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.